April 1612. A small island called Ganryujima off the coast of Kyushu. The tide is coming in. A man named Miyamoto Musashi steps off a boat carrying a wooden oar. He has carved it on the boat ride over to be longer than his opponent's famous long sword. The opponent is Sasaki Kojiro, the most feared swordsman in Japan. Musashi is 29 years old. He has already fought and won 60 duels. He won his first at 13 against a grown man with a stick. The fight lasts seconds. Kojiro dies on the sand. That was the last duel. Musashi never fought another one. He spent the next 30 years becoming something rarer than the greatest swordsman alive. He became the student of his own mind. In the week before he died, he wrote 21 rules. He called them the dokkodo, the way of walking alone. This is what he left you. Kumamoto, Japan. 1645. An old man is dying in a cave. His hand is steady. He is writing 21 short lines on a roll of paper. 7 days later, he will be gone. The paper will outlive every empire that ruled Japan in his lifetime. The first line he wrote was this: accept everything just the way it is. The dokkodo is not a manual for fighting. It is a manual for watching yourself. 21 rules, no enemies, no battles, only the self held up to a mirror, line by line. Musashi understood something most men never will. You cannot read another man until you can read yourself. The opponent in the duel is a reflection. What you see in him is what is already inside you. Marcus Aurelius wrote the same thing from a different continent 1500 years earlier. Look within. Within is the fountain of good. Two men, two worlds, one conclusion. The war is always with the self first. Here is what to steal this week. Write down 3 things you believe are true about yourself. Then write down 3 things a person who has known you your whole life would say are true about you. The gap between the 2 lists is the work. Before you read any opponent, read that gap. Musashi was born in 1584. His father, a minor swordsman, died when Musashi was 7. He was raised for a few years by his uncle, a monk, at a temple called Dorinbo. And then he left. He was 13. He never attended another school. He never took another teacher. He fought his first recorded duel that same year against a traveling samurai named Arima Kihei and killed him with a wooden staff. What followed was 20 years of training done almost entirely alone. Musashi wrote this in the Book of 5 Rings. The way is in training. 4 words. No teacher, no school, no lineage. Just the work, repeated every day by the man himself. This is the part of mastery nobody wants to hear. The teacher cannot give it to you. The course cannot give it to you. At some point, the external stops being useful and the internal has to take over, or nothing happens. Musashi said it like this: you must understand that there is more than one path to the top of the mountain, but there is only one person who can walk yours. Here is what to steal. Cancel 1 source of external instruction this week. 1 podcast, 1 course, 1 scroll, just 1. Replace that hour with the thing itself. You doing the work. The teacher was never coming to save you. Kyoto, 1604. Musashi is 21. He walks into the courtyard of the Yoshioka school, the most respected fencing dynasty in Japan. His hair is unkempt, his clothes are filthy. He looks like a farm boy who wandered in off the road. The head of the school, Yoshioka Seijuro, does not take him seriously. That is a mistake. Musashi defeats Seijuro with a single stroke of a wooden sword. Seijuro's arm is broken. He retires from fencing that day. Seijuro's brother, Denshichiro, challenges Musashi next to preserve the family honor. Musashi kills him. Then the family sends a boy, a young heir, with a dozen swordsmen hidden in the trees around the meeting ground. They plan to ambush Musashi after the duel begins. Musashi arrives early. Before they have finished setting up, he kills the boy first and fights his way out through the archers in the trees. The Yoshioka school ended that day. 3 masters. 1 untrained-looking stranger who had been training in silence for years. He wrote this later. Do not fear the man who practices 10,000 kicks once. Fear the man who practices 1 kick 10,000 times. Here's what to steal. Pick 1 skill in your field. 1. The narrow one everyone else skips because it is boring. Train it in the dark for a month. Do not tell anyone. Do not post about it. Then walk into your next room and see what happens. Musashi invented a fighting style nobody had ever used. He called it nito-ryu, 2 swords, the long katana in one hand, the short wakizashi in the other, both swinging at once. Before Musashi, no swordsman fought this way. The short sword was for ceremony, not combat. Musashi looked at that assumption and ignored it. But here's the deeper point. He did not stop at swords. He was also a painter. His ink-wash painting of a shrike on a dead branch still hangs in museums in Japan. He was a sculptor, a calligrapher. He designed tea bowls and gardens. He wrote poetry. Why? Because Musashi believed that mastery of one thing is not the end of the road. It is the doorway. Once you know what it feels like to truly master something, you can find that same feeling in anything. He wrote it in the Book of Five Rings. From one thing, know 10,000 things. The sword teaches timing. Timing is in painting. Timing is in writing. Timing is in the way a man walks into a room. The sword is not the point. The sword is the extension. The point is the mind that moves it. Here's what to steal. Take the one skill you're best at, your craft, the thing you know cold. Then pick a second thing, completely unrelated, and apply the principles from the first one to the second. The craft was always the teacher, not the tool. Back to Ganryujima. April 1612. Musashi is scheduled to fight Kojiro at 8 in the morning. He does not arrive at 8. He does not arrive at 9. The sun climbs. Kojiro waits on the sand with his famous long sword drawn, 2 feet of polished steel called the drying pole. By the time Musashi steps off the boat, Kojiro has been standing in the sun, furious, for hours. Here's what Musashi had done. He had rowed over slowly on purpose. He had carved his wooden oar during the ride, longer than Kojiro's sword. He had factored in the tide, so the sun would be in Kojiro's eyes. And he had known, before the duel started, that Kojiro's pride would not let him leave. The waiting itself was the first cut. Kojiro charges. His anger swings the sword an instant too early. Musashi steps forward with the oar and hits him once across the skull. Kojiro is dead before he hits the ground. Musashi wrote this later. Perceive that which cannot be seen with the eye. The blade was not the weapon. The blade was the last step. The real weapon was everything invisible that came before it. Here is what to steal. In your next hard meeting, arrive 3 minutes early and watch the room. Do not speak. Do not prepare your lines. Watch. Who is tense? Who is avoiding whose eye? What is already decided before the first word? Read the room that is invisible. That is the duel. A wooden shed outside the Himeji Castle grounds. 1600s Japan. A single man stands with a wooden sword. He cuts downward, then again, for an hour, then 2, then 6. This was the pattern of Musashi's life for 30 years. Not battles, not duels, cuts, thousands of cuts, tens of thousands, in silence, in a shed, every day. He wrote it plainly in the Book of Five Rings. The way is in training. And then he wrote the line that should be burned into the wall of every gym and every studio and every office. 1,000 days of training is said to be tempering. 10,000 days of training is said to be refining. Do the math. 10,000 days is 27 years. Musashi was not speaking poetically. He was giving a timeline. Tempering takes 3 years. Refining takes 27. This is the brutal truth nobody wants to hear in an era of 30-day challenges. The thing you actually want to become is not a month away. It is a decade away. And the only path is the cut done today and the cut done tomorrow. Here is what to steal. Pick the craft that matters most to you. Open a simple notebook. Write today's date. Mark 1 line for each session of deliberate work you do this week. Not talking, not planning, not consuming. The thing itself. Then do it again next week, for a year. The mark on the page is the training. The page is the life. Musashi was famously hard to be around. He rarely bathed. He refused small talk. He did not attend parties. He traveled light, slept in shrines, and when he spoke, it was almost always about the work. Contemporary records describe him as unkempt, abrupt, sometimes rude. He was not performing mystery. He was just not wasting minutes. In the Book of Five Rings, he wrote this: do nothing that is of no use. Read it again slowly. Do nothing that is of no use. Every action, every word, every hour, weighed. Most men do the opposite. They fill the silence. They answer the phone because it is ringing. They show up to the party because it is expected. They reply to the email because it arrived. None of it is use. All of it is noise. Musashi was ruthless about this because he had a limited amount of life and an almost unlimited amount of craft to work through. He could not afford the performance. Neither can you. Here is what to steal. Tonight, open your calendar. Look at the last 7 days. Circle any hour that produced nothing. Not rest. Rest is use. Circle the hours that were pure noise. The meeting that could have been an email, the scroll. Then ask one question. Why was I there? Make the next 7 days quieter. See what you can do with what you get back. By the end of his life, Musashi had done something unusual. He had stopped thinking about swordsmanship as swordsmanship. He wrote about strategy for generals and for carpenters in the same breath. The builder of a house, the cook, the merchant, the farmer. All of them, in his mind, were doing the same thing he was doing with a blade. He wrote the most underrated sentence in the Book of Five Rings. The spirit of defeating the opponent is the same for 10 million opponents. Hold that line. Every duel Musashi fought had taught him something about every other duel a human being ever faces. The market is a duel. The meeting is a duel. The argument with your partner is a duel. The morning you face yourself in the mirror is a duel. The weapon changes. The tactics change. The mindset does not. The mindset is this. See clearly. Arrive early. Read what cannot be seen. Strike once, not twice. Do not swing out of anger. Do not swing out of fear. And when the work is done, put the weapon down. He mastered that mindset against one opponent at a time for 60 duels until he could apply it to anything. A conversation, a garden, a painting, a single line of ink on a page. Here's what to steal. This week, before your hardest moment, pause and ask a simple question. What would I do here if this were a duel? Not hostile, not violent, just clear. Most of life gets easier when you treat it the way a master treats a single cut. Here is a short list of things Miyamoto Musashi was. A swordsman, a painter, a sculptor, a calligrapher, a garden designer, a tea ceremony student, a poet, a military strategist, a writer of one of the most studied books in Japanese history, a philosopher, all one man. 61 years of life, he wrote this in the Book of Five Rings. You must understand that there is more than one path to the top of the mountain. Most men pick one thing and protect it from every other thing. They are accountants who do not paint. They are athletes who never read. They are readers who never build. Musashi did not believe in that kind of specialization. Once you have truly mastered one thing, you owe it to that mastery to test it in a completely different domain, because that is how you find out what you actually learned. What he learned from the sword, he poured into painting. What he learned from painting, he poured back into strategy. Each discipline sharpened the other. Here's what to steal. Name the one thing you are genuinely good at, then pick a second thing this month. Unrelated. Start from zero. A language, drawing, cooking, a physical craft. Do not do it to be good at two things. Do it to find out which parts of your first mastery were actually about mastery itself. Musashi could have been the most famous samurai in Japan by the end of his life. He had the record. He had the invitations. Feudal lords offered him positions as chief instructor. He turned most of them down. In 1643, at the age of 60, he did something strange, coming from a man who had spent his life in combat. He walked away from everything. He climbed to a cave on Mount Iwado. He sat down inside it, and he started writing. He wrote this in the Book of Five Rings. Think lightly of yourself and deeply of the world. Read those words slowly. He was not telling you to hate yourself. He was telling you to stop being the main character in your own head. Lift the weight of your own importance off your own shoulders. You will think clearer the second you do. This is the final technique Musashi learned. The ego is the last enemy. It follows you into every other duel. It is the one that makes you swing too early and too angry. It is the one that made the other men in the Yoshioka story charge when they should have waited. The cave was not retirement. The cave was the last duel. Musashi versus his own name. Here's what to steal. This week, do one meaningful thing that you do not tell anyone about. No post, no photo, no mention. Let the thing exist only between you and the work. Feel what happens. That feeling is the beginning of thinking lightly of yourself. Mount Iwado, Kyushu, Japan. A dark opening in the rock called Reigando Cave. 1643. Musashi is 60 years old. He has lived what, by every external measure, is already a complete life. 60 duels won, armies commanded, a name known across every province of Japan. He carries a roll of paper, a few brushes, some ink, a sword he will never draw again, and almost nothing else. He walks into the cave, he sits down on the cold floor, and he begins to write the book that will outlive him by nearly 400 years. He writes for 2 years. Ground, water, fire, wind, and emptiness. The 5 rings. 5 sections about strategy, timing, perception, and what he called the void. The void is the chapter almost nobody finishes. It is Musashi writing about what is left when every technique has been learned and let go. In that chapter he writes this: perceive that which cannot be seen with the eye. And this, the spirit of defeating the opponent is the same for 10 million opponents. And this, think lightly of yourself and deeply of the world. He finishes the Book of 5 Rings in the spring of 1645. He is dying. He knows it. And then, in the last week of his life, he does one more thing. He takes a fresh piece of paper and he writes the dokkodo, the way of walking alone. 21 lines. No battles, no strategy, no enemies, just a man, at the end of 60 years of mastering violence, telling the next man how to walk with himself. Do not regret what you have done. Accept everything just the way it is. In all things have no preferences. Do not think dishonestly. Be detached from desire your whole life long. Never stray from the way. He finishes the last line. He signs it. 7 days later, he is gone. This is the thesis. A man who spent his whole life learning how to end other men ended his own life writing a guide to how to live with yourself. Not a war manual, a walking manual. The sword was never the point. The sword was the teacher. And at the end, the teacher had nothing left to say about the sword and everything left to say about the man holding it. Here's the line from the dokkodo to carry with you. Accept everything just the way it is. Musashi wrote that 7 days before he died. It is not a line about giving up. It is a line about stopping the fight with reality so you can start the real work on yourself. The traffic is the traffic. The boss is the boss. The body you have is the body you have. The hour you got is the hour you got. Accept it, then move. That is the beginning of mastery, not the end. You do not have to pick up a sword. You just have to pick one thing and train it in the dark. Watch yourself the way Musashi watched the tide. Sit down somewhere quiet at some point and write the short list of rules that your life will stand on. That is the way of walking alone. That is what Miyamoto Musashi left you. Before you go, do 2 things. Hit the like button so this video reaches the next person who needs it. Subscribe so you get the next one. And drop a comment below with the one thing you learned from this video, or the one commitment you are making today. Not next week, today. Write it down where you will see it tomorrow, and then start.